Dolphins Central. Here's Ryan Yusefi and Thomas Galicia.
I wonder how clear it must look from there to here. No obstruction, the selfish corruption, all in this atmosphere. No fear, less tears, only time to catch my breath. I'm about to inhale, your love has touched my chest. Confusion.
Welcome, everybody, to Dolphins Central Radio. I am your host, Thomas Galicia, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Ryan Yusefi. Ryan, how's it going today?
Doing well. How about you today, Thomas?
I'm doing pretty well myself. Published an article earlier discussing Dennis Green's comments on the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand what everybody's got their panties in a knot for so early. It's really early, so let's just relax. Let's watch Friday's game, and let's see Tannehill with the actual guys he's gonna play with. You know.
Yeah, and I guarantee you it won't be as scary as The Conjuring was.
Did you go see it?
Yes, I did.
How'd you like it?
I thought it was one of the best, probably the best horror movie of the last 15 years. I don't really get impressed by horror movies simply because they always seem to come off a little bit hokey or corny. This time around, no, it was very good, and even my girlfriend was scared at the end.
Yeah, it wasn't anything new, but it just was done really well. So I enjoyed it. I've kind of forgotten it, so I don't really want to talk about it too much because I'm actually sleeping now. So I forgot that happened, but for like a week I was shook. It was terrible.
Wow.
I couldn't even look out my window. Like, I don't know. I don't want to spoil stuff for people that are the listeners here. So go see The Conjuring.
Yes.
It's not just a clapping ghost. It's pretty scary. So. Yeah. So, what'd you take from our first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game? What was the thing you took from that game?
Well, they were definitely rusty.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Here's something I've noticed, and I actually took the time to actually look at some game film from last year through the NFL's All 22 video that they offer on NFL.com, and really, there is no reason to get way too overreactive over how Tannehill came out, because he does start off kind of slow sometimes, especially with his accuracy.
Right. My biggest thing is that we saw a quarter, so a lot of times a quarterback will start off bad, have a bad first quarter, bad first half, come back, win the game, or second quarter figure out the defense. And another thing is that they're not game planning. They're not calling plays that are, that they've seen on film that could work against a team. They're just going out there and playing, backyard football. It's August 7th and people are already, making predictions on, altering everything. I saw you on Twitter. You thought 11-5, but now you got 10-6, huh? I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready to change anything. And I can be the most negative Dolphin fan. I'm just not ready to make any decisions yet,
Well, part of that actually has more to do with the other teams on the schedule than it does the Dolphins themselves.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm, this team,
Yeah. No, I can understand people not being happy with the first couple of weeks here because we have yet to see Wallace. Hartline's been hurt. Miller gets nicked up. Martin can't block anyone. Wheeler looked terrible in the first game after we heard he's like He-Man in practice. There wasn't much good. Bumpfist, that's what's been good. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then the Will Davis kid, he looks great in our practices, but he got in the game and he didn't look that great. He had a pass interference in the end zone, but it's just early. I knew, like I tweeted on Twitter earlier that I knew that there was going to be the here we go again with Dolphin fans. I didn't know that it was going to be on August 7th. That's a new record. So, yeah, if they come out on Friday and they get up 17-0 on the Jags in the first quarter, it'll be all changed. And there's miles to go in the preseason. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do with, especially in those later games when they really open it up for Wallace in the second quarter and they come out in the third. They come out in the third quarter, they like to go into the half and come back out just to see how the starters respond. That'll be more interesting. Right now, I've learned nothing, really. I still know that Jonathan Martin stinks. That's all I know.
Actually, he wasn't even all too bad on Sunday. Really, who was getting blown up was Dallas Thomas. But everything I've read on Dallas Thomas is that the guy has no business as a tackle. He's a
No,
guard.
he's a guard, yeah.
It would be really silly to put Richie Incognito as your left tackle.
Right. No, yeah, they've definitely, they're experimenting, and I think they said as much. They said that we have 5 games, gives us a chance to experiment on the offensive line. I find it pretty funny that we're experimenting on the offensive line after all this time of spending money in draft picks. But hey, what can you say? It's just we gotta figure it out. But okay, we have our guest coming up. Thomas, you want to go ahead and break here for our guests?
Yes, certainly.
Football fans, looking to get healthy this year? Now is the time, and I have the perfect place for you. Save 10% at onit.com/football radio. Exclusive PFC radio listeners save 10% off their order. That's onit.com, ONNIT.com/football radio.
Our next guest has probably the most interesting story of any of the guests that we've had on so far. You can follow him on Twitter at NFLosophy. That's spelled at NFLOSOPHY. And he is a former employee of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here is Joe Bussell. Joe, thanks for joining us on the program. Great to have you here. Now, Joe, before we really dive into some Dolphins talk, and there definitely is some Dolphins talk to talk about, can you explain to the listeners just a little bit of your background with the Twitter account and your time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Sure. I actually started as a training camp intern for the Bengals. Turned that into a internship with the Bucs for a couple of training camps, and then I moved from Kentucky down to Tampa to volunteer for the Bucs. No promise of a job or anything, just moved down just to work on game days with them, and just happened to be in the right place at the right time when the guy that I worked for moved to a different team, he moved to another opportunity. And his boss asked me to interview for his position and got it. I was the team operations coordinator. Basically, that just entails handling all the day-to-day functions. We're the cog in the wheel that makes the entire machine turn. We do all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I didn't have a whole lot of football relative things that I did. I did scheduling and stuff for football, made sure that they had everything that they need, but as far as on the field stuff, I wasn't responsible for anything like that. But yeah, that's kind of the story. After Raheem Morris, I was there with Raheem Morris. After his entire regime was let go, I needed an outlet for all of the football thoughts that were going on in my head. So I decided that I wanted to take to Twitter and do it, but I realized that that could be a dicey situation because the NFL doesn't like, people talking out of turn. They like to keep everything in-house, so I didn't want to spook anybody, so I decided to keep it anonymous for a while, and it turned into something much bigger than I thought it would. There's a lot of people that began following me that I really never expected to, as far as football people. So it's been fun. I interact every day with people on there, and I hope it's as much fun for everybody else as it is for me.
It definitely is. I've always considered you a must-follow since I discovered your account about 8 or 9 months ago, actually, and you had a very interesting Dolphins-related tweet earlier today, where you said there will be a lot rolling right in Miami, both planned and unplanned. Right. And what exactly were you? You later said that a lot of people caught the duality of the tweet. Mm-hmm. But can you elaborate what you were trying to get at with that tweet?
Well, what it was originally meant for was you guys have a problem at left tackle. Jonathan Martin is. I never thought that he was going to be the answer. He was terrible last year, and I don't know what Jeff Ireland was thinking, and Joe Philbin, I guess, too, because I feel like Philbin would have been involved in this decision, and that Martin could hold up at left tackle. He's simply just not there. And I thought, you know what? Well, I'm sure they've got a backup that could probably hold his own. And man, Thomas did not look very good the other night either. And given it's early in preseason and it's early in camp, and these guys still have 3 or 4 more games to go to prove what they've got. But and I'm concerned for Tannehill, and with all that pressure, other teams are gonna put pressure on that left side of the offensive line, and Tannehill's gonna be rolling right. There's gonna be some rolling plan with him through the scheme just because he's athletic and he throws well on the run, but he's gonna be rolling right away from all those blitzers coming from his backside a lot as well. So and then the duality was kind of Miami's known for trying to figure out the best way to put this. Miami rolls in a different way. I have a lot of people that like to roll in a different way.
Hey Joe, this is Ryan. I caught another one of your tweets today, the Chad Henne tweet. What the hell is going on there? First of all, is that guy for real?
I think this might be the only time I've ever said this. I think I agree with Pete Prisco's article the other day that says that Gabbert's the guy. I mean, you know what Henne is. You've seen him. You know what he can be. I think at the best as he was last year is as good as he's going to get, and that's not going to be good enough to hold up a franchise for a long time.
That sounds very familiar. Sorry about
Yes,
that.
it does.
And I think you sink or swim with Gabbert. You got to find out exactly what he is and if he can handle it with a better offensive line. The Jaguars apparently went through some analytics and found out that Gabbert was good without pressure in his face, with whenever he had more than 2.5 seconds to throw or whatever, then he became a top third quarterback or something like that. I'm not really sure I agree with that, but it's interesting to think. So I think that Gabbert is the guy for them. I think that they're going to sink or swim with him. I mean, it's not like they're competing for a Super Bowl anyway. So figure out what you've got in-house, and, if Gabbert does well, great, you found a quarterback. If Gabbert doesn't do well, great, you're probably going to end up top 3 next year, and you're going to be competing for Teddy Bridgewater, so you're going to get your quarterback anyway. It's kind of it's a lose-lose, but it's also a win-win kind of.
You got some, you're pretty opinionated on Twitter. You tell it how it is. How do you feel about the Mike Wallace signing? Do you feel like he's someone that can carry the load as a number 1 receiver, or the Dolphins overpaid for basically a guy that's going to be running deep every play? They're going to need, to get another playmaker on offense to go with them besides Hartline moving forward past this season, not just this season.
Well, I think you have to understand exactly what Mike Wallace is. He's not a perfect route runner. He played well in Pittsburgh because Roethlisberger extended plays, and that's when Mike Wallace really got open whenever he had a couple extra seconds to run across the field or come back to the ball. There's nobody that can hang with Mike Wallace for more than a couple of seconds. That speed is legit. I think Philbin is a really brilliant coach, and Sherman I have my doubts about, but we'll see how they use him. I hope that they use him to lift the defense. Mike is going to have a much bigger impact on this offense and the way that he's used rather than statistically, I think. He's going to have his chances to catch the ball down the field whenever he just blows past guys that fall for a double move or something. I think that Gibson and Hartline are really going to relish in the fact that they've got Mike Wallace and Dustin Keller as well, because Keller's going to get some more seam routes because they're going to be shading. If you put him opposite the formation other than Mike Wallace, then Keller's going to get some seam routes right into that cover 3 or if they're playing a single high safety, because they're going to be pulling those safeties toward the edges towards Mike Wallace. So he's going to be able to work the middle of the field a little bit better, and I think that Hartline and Gibson are going to have a decent amount of room underneath because Wallace will blow the top off. Now, if Wallace makes a ton of catches or not, I'm not really sure, but that's that's not really the point of Mike Wallace, I think, of what he's going to be in this offense. I could be wrong. Mike Sherman kind of perplexes me sometimes in the way that he calls plays, but at least that's the way that I would expect Mike Wallace to be used.
Hey, Joe, as for the rest of the Dolphins offense, was there any other acquisition other than Mike Wallace that sort of got your attention that would make this offense a little bit better than last season?
I think Dustin Keller adds a different element than they've had in a while. He's a lot better than I think people realize because he was stuck in New York without a quarterback. The Jets love to run seam routes with him, just to send him right up the seam, just past the linebacker in front of the safety. And if Tannehill can get that throw down, Keller's gonna have a great year. Gibson if he's a third guy, I can understand that. I wouldn't expect him to be much more than that. Chad Bumpus looked great the other night. I had never really studied Chad Bumpus, but he's definitely somebody that teams are going to be paying attention to now. And if he has another good game, you might not see him much the rest of the preseason because the Dolphins won't want teams to have a whole lot of tape on him. Other than that, I don't know that there was anybody that really kind of stuck out to me that they grabbed. I like Gillies. I like Gillisley on offense. He's a downhill runner. I think he ends up taking Daniel Thomas's backup role. Other than that, I can't really tell you. I don't think that they added anything that's gonna be a game changer other than Mike Wallace, though.
And what effect do you think that will have on Lamar Miller going forward? Speaking with Mike Wallace.
That's going to be up to Mike Sherman. The scheme is going to be so important for those guys, especially Lamar Miller, because he's more powerful than what I think most people would think. He's going to get a lot of the workload, but I think you're going to also see a lot of Gillisley or Daniel Thomas, whichever one wins out there, because teams have to account for Mike Wallace. If they don't, they'll get burned by him all day. So you're going to see a lot of 2 deep safeties. Guys aren't going to be able to come down and crowd the box, and that's when Lamar Miller's going to work best, is whenever he's in space. They can get him to the second level or around the edge, and there's a safety that's still 5 yards off the line of scrimmage by the time Lamar Miller's passed. It's going to be hard for them to catch up with him. I think the Mike Wallace signing helps, but Miami's run blocking was good last year. They weren't bad at all, and I think Lamar Miller knows that. And there were times when Lamar Miller flashed, and he looked better than Reggie Bush. So I completely understand why the Dolphins were fine with letting Bush go.
Hey, Joe, we spoke about Martin earlier, and they keep seeming to, they're shuffling around the offensive line. Where do you feel Richie Incognito fits best? Because they seem to be moving him around a lot. He was entrenched there at guard, and now they're moving him over to the other side. And do you feel like he was kind of blanketed and helped out by having Jake Long, and that he might be a weak link this season? Because it seems as if they're, they have a guy's named Zamuda that's kind of pushing him, and they have some people pushing. How do you feel? Where's Incognito best fit?
You've got to keep him in guard. I don't think he's a tackle. Specifically, probably on the left side, he's probably better. I do think Chris Long might have helped out over there a little bit. Having him sandwiched in between Pouncey and Long last year probably definitely helped him a little bit. He's a nasty player. He likes to get down and dirty. I think the reasoning behind trying to flip him to different sides is to find out if he's good enough to play on the right side, where he can hold his own on the right side, but then maybe they can sandwich somebody else, a lesser player, down in at left guard. Hopefully, if they can find the left tackle. I think right now they've got to keep him at left guard and help protect whatever left tackle is there. I mean, I would even, if I were them, I would find the most athletic tackle that maybe couldn't anchor so well, and just make sure that he never lets anybody get around his outside, and keep incognito inside there to make sure nobody gets around the inside. So they're going to be double teaming off that left tackle. Now that's going to hurt the rest of the line, but if that's what they got to do, that's what they got to do. They have to protect Daniel's backside, or it's going to be a long year for him.
All right, finally, Joe. I've taken a look at any possible free agents at left tackle for the Dolphins in the past couple of days. Is there any that you would say would be at least a decent fit as a Band-Aid? Because I mean that's all they can really go for at this time, unless they are willing to trade a second-round pick to Kansas City for Brandon Albert again.
I mean, the free agent market is pretty picked over right now. I think that their only option is really going to be, if they really are interested in trying to find somebody to come in and play all season long, I think that they're going to have to trade for somebody. There's not really a whole lot of guys out there right now that are still left that would be able to play it. I can't even think of anybody, that's still out there that would even be worth looking at this point.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you on the show, and we had some fun. We learned a lot, and please come join us again.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Football fans, check out ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also, check out the very popular Pro Football Central radio network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
Our thanks to Joe Bussell for joining us. Definitely one of the more interesting follows on Twitter if you love football.
Yeah, I found him late. I'm getting up to speed on his story, but it's interesting that someone would come on, in his position would find himself wanting to talk football, but not wanting to ruin any future opportunities. So that's interesting. I remember hearing about it, and I remember maybe even reading an article, but I didn't know that the person had come forward. So that's interesting. It's real cool.
Mm-hmm. There's a small part of me that it would have been cool had he still been anonymous. That way we could have had him on the show, and he would have just we would have just distorted his voice and everything. That would have at least been funny.
Yeah, I think the anonymous part was the draw. Everybody thought it could have been anyone. Someone, a Hall of Famer, down to anybody. So that was. I remember hearing about that. He's opinionated, and I've said this before. I like guys that come on. And they don't just tell you just because you're called Dolphins Central, they don't just tell you what you want to hear. They tell you Jonathan Martin's in big trouble. And he said that. I like to hear the truth. We're not here to. It's preseason, but we're not all here to just pretend like everybody's gonna go to the Super Bowl. Let's hear the truth and discuss it. So he was a good guest. We gotta have him back for sure.
Yeah, and now. The Dolphins did do something that was almost universally praised this week when they re-signed Rashad Jones to a 4-year extension.
Yeah, locked him up. Yeah, that was interesting timing. I guess the preseason is where that happens. I read earlier a couple weeks ago that they weren't gonna get into that, but I guess they decided before the season gets going to wrap that up, because I know that every move is in turn related to another move, and I think keeping him has to do with who they're going to franchise next year, because if Grimes comes out and plays like he's projected to play, he's on a 1-year deal, and they might want to franchise him. They got to make a choice on a decision on Soliai and Starks, so I think they're thinking to the future next season. and they have yet to really mortgage the future. So that's interesting. You know, they've had all these signings, but every time I see it, it's the numbers are small. They're not capped out next season, so that's good.
Yeah,
Props to Ireland finally.
Yeah, can't believe we're saying that. And also, next year, according to Spotrac.com, which sadly has nothing to do with Eric Spoelstra.
Right.
Rashad. Well, actually, no. It does have the Heat salary on there as well. But Rashad Jones's deal next year, $3.61 million. That's his cap number.
That's nice. Next year, in related news, next year Matt Moore, the backup QBs, is 5.5. If that tells you anything, so.
You never know. He might not be on the team next year. You know, depending on how Tannehill plays, obviously.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting. I saw the Packers they were real desperate for a backup quarterback. They even signed Vince Young. That's, you know, things like that are things to watch for. If Aaron Rodgers were to go down, God forbid for them, who are they looking for? They're looking for, you know, they have the kind of team that they don't want to throw away a season. You know, they're not gonna pretend like, you know, that they're gonna make the playoffs with their backup. They're gonna probably want to go out and get somebody. So you never know. That's how guys like Matt Moore become more valuable. You know, so I thought that was interesting. That news on them signing Vince Young, how desperate they were. But then I also read that maybe that was just to get them ready for RG3 when they play him, you know. So who knows?
It's a possibility, actually. And not only do they play RG3, but they also have Russell Wilson on their schedule.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's get back to this game that we played the other day. First play. How'd that go for us on offense?
I really
not too well, right?
No, not too well. They charged the fumble to Tannehill, which is actually fair because if you really look at it, he was the one that really he didn't seem as sure in his handoff, and I think since they love running him in play action anyways, I could see the possibility being they sort of got it. He might have gotten it switched up where maybe he was thinking it was going to be play action. Miller was thinking that, you know, he was going to run the ball, and, you know, if the quarterback and the running back aren't on the same page, then you are going to have problems.
Yeah. You know what it felt like to me? It felt like a pressure free throw that they were, you know, the first play of the offensive season, kind of backed up to their other team's goal. All eyes are on you. It's at night, Sunday Night Football. Everybody wants to see football, and the butterflies are going. First snap as the duo there, and it just felt wrong. It kind of happened slow, and, you know, they're going to be all right. I don't think Lamar Miller's going to have fumbling issues. I'm pretty sure Tannehill can figure out how to hand off. I think they're going to be okay, but that was so Dolphins. I couldn't even tweet after. I couldn't even figure out what I was seeing. I couldn't believe that happened. I thought it was a replay of, like, last season. I look down, I look up, and the ball's on the ground. I'm like, unbelievable. So
I was expecting, you know, the age-old hashtag LOLphins to trend, and I was surprised that it didn't even during that game. And
right.
Go
ahead.
Here's something to remember about that game, though. Really, it was all about the turnover battle in the end,
right.
Because without the turnovers, the two teams were even. And that is going to be something that the Dolphins have emphasized, which is, you know, the defense has to create turnovers. That's the one missing piece of that defense is really doesn't have the ability to cause turnovers. They can get you a stop, but they can't seem to cause turnovers. While the offense, they really did a horrible job holding on to the ball. Really, it just came down to that. If the Dolphins can figure out a way to protect the ball and, you know, get some takeaways, then, you know,
that's the name of the game.
Exactly.
That's the name of the game. I feel like I can't even make any assumptions or any say what I saw because we weren't playing at full strength. The Cowboys definitely weren't playing at full strength. It's just so early. Individual players, like Wheeler looked bad. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
He just didn't look like I had heard. I went back and looked at some of his tape when he was on the Raiders after they were raving about him, and I was like, he's a fine player, but especially in that number 52, reminded me of give me some flashbacks. But I don't know. I think they're gonna have to get him used to playing with the other guys and get him in spots where he succeeds. Last night was not, or the other night was not one of those times. But we got some playmakers on D. Deion Jordan looked wonderful, I thought. What do you think about Deion Jordan?
I raved about him when I was talking about when I wrote about what we learned in training camp. I dedicated an entire slide to him, like, oh, he's going to be a beast. And
right off the bat, I mean, he's just going full speed. He's not thinking about nothing. He's not worried about. I mean, that's how you know you got the first defensive player taken in a draft.
And he's only been practicing a week.
Right, and he's got a lot of muscle to put on him. He's got grown to a man body. You know what I'm saying? He's still a kid. He's been like you said, he's been there a week. He's coming off an injury. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that he's got Cameron Wake potential, and we could have 2 Cameron Wakes. So I didn't care anything. Honestly, that's all I really wanted to see. I want to know we have that playmaker. And then on the other side of the ball, I wanted to see Tannehill make some throws. He made some bad throws, like the McNutt passes. They just weren't on target. But that's a guy that's been here how many weeks? They're going to be off by a foot or two. Let's see where. I bet you, Hartline and him would be on the same page on that play. It's just, it's a feel. So I'm not ready to make any judgments. I actually didn't even know they played Friday. I thought it was Saturday. I didn't know they played Friday until like a day ago. So I'm excited about that. I love Friday night football.
And so do I. And again, the game's in Jacksonville, which is always great because there's usually about 40% Dolphins fans at those games.
Yeah. I used to go to FSU games when they played over there. There's a short drive from Tallahassee, and that place is a funeral, man. It's just not. It's like it's like I don't know, just droopy. Like I don't know. You go in that stadium and it's not lively. And like you said, there was a lot of just random fans. I mean, I was going to FSU game, but I saw like no Jaguar stuff around the city. It was weird. It's a weird NFL city. If it's there too much longer, we'll see. But
don't bring this up around Jaguars fans though, because they get really sensitive and really defensive, and for good reason. Partly though, because they have actually done a good job of selling out the stadium the last 2 years since their new owner bought the team.
Right.
But they hate when anyone draws attention to the fact that they've had their attendance issues.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, they really are not getting that good of a product anyways.
Not at all. I don't know what's going on with I don't know what to expect, especially fantasy-wise, from Maurice Jones-Drew. He's still something. He's got one of those chronic foot injuries. He still doesn't seem to be 100%. They show pictures of him in bar fights on TMZ, and he looks like he put on about a good 40 pounds of not the right kind of weight. And you don't know what to get from him. They've got a quarterback where they're in that dreaded like last chance situation, kind of like we had with Henny, where you're just like, all right, you have one more chance until we're gonna tank and try to get someone else. But they're not exciting. I mean, even their best wide receiver is Cecil Shorts. No one knows who that guy is. Like, terrible.
Well, Justin Blackman actually.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Shorts was the fantasy sleeper of last year.
Well, Blackman's out, right? That's why I was reading up.
Yeah.
He's out for drugs or whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I missed him when I was reading. But, yeah, he came out. People thought he was the next Des Bryant because same school and everything, and he's been he came on the end of last season. But
you never know. I mean, based off of some of the problems he's had, he might very well be.
Yeah, Yeah, we'll see. Yep. So that was a good show. Quick show. We had Mr. Joe on there from NFL Philosophy, and we talked about some Dolphins football from that first game. What are you looking for most here to see on Friday versus Jacksonville?
Well, more Tannehill, really see how he plays. Also, I'm excited to see the first team defense out there, just to see what they can really do as a unit. Because, good God, that looks like it's going to be one of the best defenses in the NFL, especially that line. And so I'm excited to see them.
Yeah, just all together. I'm still not convinced we're going to see Wallace or Hartline.
Well, they both practiced in full pads today.
They are practicing. Maybe a couple plays. You never know. But I think the next game we'll see more. I just want to see more from the offensive line. That's to me, that's the whole team. It's the glue of the team right now. And if they don't perform, then we are in big trouble.
Oh yes.
It's pretty sad that I was excited to see John Jerry was back at practice today, just standing around, not even in practice. But it's pretty sad when I'm craving John Jerry. So I'm looking for the line to play better. Some more Lamar Miller runs. He had a couple nice ones after that first fumble. And just overall, less mistakes, mistake-free football. So hopefully we can see that Friday night. And I'm definitely going to throw down a couple cold ones to watch that. Friday night football, nothing like it.
Definitely, I'll be doing the same, even though I'll actually be writing about the game at the same time.
Oh, okay.
I've done this a million times before. I can drink and write with the best of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, so where can the people catch your stuff this week? Over there on Bleacher Report, right?
Yes, as always on Bleacher Report, and be sure to follow me at Thomas Galicia. That's spelled Galicia.
You can catch me at RizWrites on Twitter, and I'm writing for the Miami New Times at the moment. Today I have a new article out, 12 surefire signs that you are a Miami Hurricanes fan. Canes fan definitely ate it up today. They enjoyed it. Last time I checked, it had like 2,000 likes on Facebook, which is the most popular article I've ever written for Miami New Times, so that was exciting. And so check that out, guys.
And it was a great article, but if I must nitpick,
okay,
you left out the fact that we have Miami-Dade College bumper stickers on our cars.
Somebody told me FIU as well. Yeah, that. I was trying to make it more serious, less joking, but that was definitely in there. I asked for people's advice, and that was one thing that I could have included. So we'll throw that in there later in the season. I'll take that jab at Canes fans later because everybody knows I went to FSU, so I have dual love, and I like to jab both sides. So
as long as you're not a Gator, you're cool with me.
Never. I don't even like driving through that town on I-10 or on 75 there. So okay, Thomas, good show. We will see everybody next week. Thank you for joining us on Dolphins Central.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.